Use throwing knives to deal with distant enemies.
Altair, what brings you back so soon?
I've done as asked and armed myself with knowledge.
Speak, and I will judge.
William's host is large and many men call him master, but he's not without enemies. He and King Richard do not see eye to eye.
It's true, they've never been close.
This works to my advantage. Richard's visit has upset him. Once the king has left, William will retreat into his fortress to brood. He'll be distracted. That's when I will strike.
You're sure of this?
As sure as I can be. And if things change, I'll adapt.
Then I give you leave to go. End the life of Montferrat, that we may call this city free.
I'll return when the deed's been done.
Fast forwarding memory to a more recent one.
This place is restricted. Be gone! Leave this place!
Please, sir, have any money?
Die! You didn't have to do that, no, did you?
Stop it, please!
You'll never get away! I'll push you down! Carry on, get yourself in control!
It's all right. It's torn.
Julia, he should stop acting like a child. Be not afraid. Fear and doubt are the weapons of our enemy. Do not listen to their lies. Poisonous words meant to sow the seeds of confusion. Turned away from God. And so he punishes us, sends hordes of heathen warriors to gather at our gates. But God is also merciful and our past misdeeds may be forgotten. All we need do is ask. And so I say to you, repent, lay down before him and confess your sins. He will forgive, such is his nature. And beg forgiveness we must.
Heathen! You'll die for that!
Service to the Lord. We must all do our part.
He must be running from
Stay
something.
strong, citizens.
Do you think he's being chased by someone?
Ah! The family's sick
You
and dying.
look
Could you
unloving
spare a
like
few
that.
coins?
Souls, William. I was told they would be held as prisoners and used to barter for the release of our men.
The Saracens would not have honored their end of the bargain. You know this to be true. I did you a favor.
Oh, yes. A great favor indeed. Now our enemies will be that much stronger in their convictions. Fight that much harder.
I know our enemy well. They will not be emboldened, but filled with fear.
Tell me, how is it you know the intentions of our enemies so well? You who forsake the field of battle to play at politics.
I did what was right, what was just.
You swore an oath to uphold the work of God, William. But that is not what I see here. No. I see a man who's trampled it.
Your words are most unkind, my liege. I would hope I might have earned your trust by now.
You are Arkel's regent, William, set to rule in my stead. How much more trust is required? Perhaps you'd like my crown.
You missed the point. This is nothing new.
Much as I'd like to waste my day trading words with you, I've a war to fight. We'll have to continue this another time.
Do not let me delay you then, Your Grace. I fear there will be no place for men like him in the New World. Send word that I wish to speak with the troops. We must ensure that everyone is doing their part. Warn them that any negligence will be severely punished. I'm in no mood to be trifled with today.
Yes, my lord.
The rest of you, follow me.
Denport, at last. Bewegung! This is actually quite amusing.
Si vous l'apercevez, ne le laissez pas s'enfuir.
Speaking with the king, and the news is grim. We stand accused of failing in our duty. He does not recognize
hell
the
do you
value
want?
of our contributions to the cause.
Move, or shame!
He knows nothing.
He's wrong!
Peace.
Be
Hold
gone,
your
beggar.
tongue. Aye, he speaks falsely, but his words are not without some merit. For these grounds.
Don't be here. Leave.
Qu'est-ce qui vous prend?
You've no reason to be here. You have no business. Leave. It's forbidden for you to be here.
Shall be rooted out and destroyed. This way, we may prevent his spread. I understood. This one off. Return to your post. Filled with a new sense of purpose. Stay strong, stay focused, and we will triumph. Falter, however, and you will join these men. Be sure of it. Dismissed!
rest now. Your schemes are at an end.
What do you know of my work?
I know that you are going to murder Richard and claim Akka for your son Conrad.
For Conrad, my son is an arse, unfit to lead his host, let alone a kingdom. And Richard, the Oncino is no better, blinded as he is by faith in the insubstantial. Acre does not belong to either of them.
Then who?
The city belongs to its people.
How can you claim to speak for the citizens? You stole their food, disciplined them without mercy, forced them into service under you.
Everything I did to prepare them for the new world. Stole their food? No. I took possession so that when the lean times came, it might be rationed properly. Look around. My district is without crime, save those committed by you and your ilk. And as for the conscription, they were not being trained to fight. They were being taught the merits of order and discipline. These things are hardly evil.
No matter how noble you believe your intentions, these acts are cruel and cannot continue.
We'll see how sweet they are, the fruits of your labors. You do not free the cities as you believe, but rather damn them. And in the end, you'll have only yourself to blame. You who speak of good intentions. Hunt you down! After him,
What news?
William of Montferrat is dead, and with him his plans for betrayal.
You've done well keeping Akka from his hands.
But why now, when the Crusaders require unity most? Could have waited.
Waited for what? For Richard to return and discover his schemes? No. It was the perfect time for him to strike.
Strange. I was sure he meant to take Akka for Conrad, yet he claimed this was not his plan.
You cannot trust the words of a snake, which even in death produces venom.
I should discuss this with Al-Muallim.
Yes, my friend. Make haste for Masyaf. I am sure he is eager for news.
Fast forwarding memory to a more recent one. Selecting the hidden blade during fight will allow you.
Come, Altair. I would have news of your progress.
I've done as you've asked.
Good, good. I sense your thoughts are elsewhere. Speak your mind.
Each man I'm sent to kill speaks cryptic words to me. Each time I come to you and ask for answers. Each time you give only riddles in exchange, but no more.
Who are you to say no more?
I'm the one who does the killing. If you want it to continue, you'll speak straight with me for once.
Tread carefully, boy. I do not like your tone.
And I do not like your deception.
I have offered you a chance to restore your lost honor.
Not lost. Taken. By you. And then you've sent me to fetch it again like some damn dog.
It seems I'll need to find another. A shame. You showed great potential.
I think if you had another, you'd have sent him long ago. You said the answer to my question would arise when I no longer needed to ask it. So I will not ask. I demand you tell me what binds these men.
What you say is true. These men are connected by a blood oath not unlike our own.
Who are they?
Non nobis, domine non nobis.
Templars.
Now you see the true reach of Robert de Sable.
All of these men, leaders of cities, commanders of armies.
All pledge allegiance to his cause.
Their works are not meant to be viewed on their own, are they? But as a whole, what do they desire?
Conquest. They seek the Holy Land not in the name of God, but for themselves.
What of Richard? Salah-ad-Din?
Any who oppose the Templars will be destroyed. Be assured they have the means to accomplish it.
Then they must be stopped.
That is why we do our work, Altair. To ensure a future free of such things.
Why did you hide the truth from me?
That you might pierce the veil yourself. Like any task, knowledge precedes action. Information learned is more valuable than information given. Besides, your recent behavior had not inspired much confidence.
I see.
Altair, your mission has not changed. Merely the context within which you perceive it.
And armed with this knowledge, I might better understand those Templars that remain.
Is there anything else you want to know?
What about the treasure Malik retrieved from Solomon's temple? Robert seemed desperate to have it back.
In time, Altair, all will become clear. Just as the role of the Templars has revealed itself to you, so too will the nature of their treasure. For now, take comfort in the fact that it is not in their hands, but ours.
If this is your desire.
It is. You are restored another rank. Take back your weapon. Use it to bring honor to the Brotherhood. Altair, before you go...
Yes?
How did you know I wouldn't kill you?
Truth be told, Master, I didn't. I took a leap of faith.
Use throwing knives to deal with distant enemies.
Safety and peace, Malik.
Word that the city was possessed of either. Why do you trouble me today?
Al-Mualim has marked Majd-ud-Din for death. What can you tell me about him?
Salah-ud-Din's absence has left the city without a proper leader, and Majd-ud-Din has appointed himself to play the part. Fear and intimidation get him what he wants. He has no true claim to the position.
That ends today.
You speak too readily. This is not some slaver we're discussing. He rules Jerusalem and is well protected because of it. I suggest you plan your attack carefully. Get to better know your prey.
With your help, I will. Where would you have me begin my search?
What's this? You're actually asking for my assistance instead of demanding it. I'm impressed.
Be out with it.
As you wish. Here's where I would look. First, to the southwest near the mosque. After that, head south of here. There are two locations that might interest you. The southernmost church is one, the other is in the streets, near a synagogue.
Thank you for your help, Dad.
Don't foul this, Altair.
away with you. You shouldn't be here. Be gone.
You dare steal in my presence? That will cost you your life!
Help me!
Dirty thief! I'll have your hand for that!
No, you don't understand. I have nothing.
ما الذي يجعله يركض هكذا؟
Kenara çekil. Ne istiyorsun?
Did you see the order? He wants us to repair a stage for another execution. Today.
It's the one at the western edge of Solomon's Temple. I was on my way just now.
So much death.
Worried that our true leader might return and bring a measure of justice to this city.
Yes, and not this mockery Majd-Dean parades before us.
How? How does something like this happen?
Everyone appointed in Salah ad-Din's stead is met with an untimely end. And now the position falls to him. He, who was once nothing more than the Emir's scribe.
How convenient. It would not surprise me to learn he was behind these accidents.
Shh! If the guards hear us, we'll be taken for treason. Executed on the very platform we have to repair. Come, let us return to work. What is it that you want?
Go away. Be gone!
All I ask is for a few coins. Oh, frightful. That would have been me. No, please don't leave. Just that you seek help.
Thief! You are filth!
Why are you doing this?
He looks like he's being chased by someone.
He shouldn't be running like that. What's wrong with him? Please, have any money?
He should stop acting like a child.
I'll tell you, I meant to meet a contact nearby, but the guards seem to have it in for me. Every time I leave here, I'm attacked and forced to flee. I'm simply not the fighter I once was. Would you be willing to see me safely to my destination?
Kalabalığın içine karışmayı seviyor. Gözünüzü kör tutun. Kimsenin sizi kandırmasına izin vermeyin.
I'll have your head!
Can't take much more of this! Help me!
That man just murdered someone!
Go pester someone else.
I'll have your hand for that.
So comes the English king and his infidel army. They leave horrors in their wake.
Die, infidel!
Help me!
You'll never get away!
Waiting. He tempts us always. Be strong. Strong like Salahadin. And take up arms against our enemies in whatever way you can. I stand before you to deliver a warning. Should Richard take Jaffa, there will be no...
Die, infidel! Look out!
Take me out of this!
End this before it has a chance to begin. That city
Good. I should be safe here. They won't dare spill blood in front of a holy place. In the chaos, I managed to grab this from one of the guards. Perhaps it'll be of use to you.
They say it is a crusade. A crusade for what? Ignorance? Violence? Madness? We must resist. We must fight them in any way we can.
Oh my.
Be wary, friends. The Shaitan is everywhere. Watching. Waiting. He tempts us always. Be strong. Strong like Salahadin. And take up arms against our enemies. In whatever way you can. I stand before you to deliver a warning. Should Richard take Jaffa, there will be no stopping him. He will march on Jerusalem next. We must end this before it has a chance to begin. That city is ours, and always been ours. And it is our duty to defend it until death. The Crusaders must be destroyed! South comes the English king and his infidel army.
Is there a reason for him to do that?
Please
هل هو يفر من شخص ما؟ Leave this place. Pay for your sin! I will catch you! You cannot hide forever! You can't hide forever.
You are not supposed to be here. Leave. You are not supposed to be here. Leave.
I am sorry, Ahmad. They came without warning.
My son? They have my son? What is to be done with him?
We did everything we could.
What is to be done with him?
He's to be executed. Today.
No. I won't allow it.
But what can we do? Majduddin will hear no appeals. He says there can be no barter with God's will.
This is not God's will, but madness. I'll go to him myself. Where is he?
He will attend the execution. Perform it even. He enjoys the act. Truly evil man.
We have no time to lose then. Let's go.
Ah!
Kime boyun eğmek istiyorsun?
This is a waste of my time.
You seem to have exhibited my friend. That make room. Get out of my way. Look out! What are you doing? Move! He won't get away. Don't get away from me. Won't get away from me!
What news, novice?
I am not an artist.
A man's skill is defined by his actions, not the markings on his robe.
We can trade barbs or do Al Muallim's work. It's your decision.
Then be out with it.
Jerusalem's regent Majd-ud-Din is holding a public execution not far from here. It's sure to be well guarded, but it's nothing I can't handle. I know what to do.
And that is why you remain a novice in my eyes. You cannot know anything, only suspect. You must expect to be wrong, to have overlooked something. Anticipate, Altair. How many times must I remind you of this?
As you wish. Are we done?
Not quite. There is one more thing. One of the men to be executed is a brother. One of us. Al-Mulim wishes for him to be saved. Do not worry about the actual rescue. My men will take care of that. But you must ensure Majd-ud-Din does not take his life.
I won't give him the chance.
So I hope.
Fast-forwarding memory to a more recent one.
a foolish ring. All I ask is for a quick doing.
Come back now.
Why is he doing that?
Leave this place. You shouldn't be here. Be gone. Leave, peasant, before I make you.
People of Jerusalem, hear me well. I stand here today to deliver a warning. There are malcontents among you. They sow the seeds of discontent, hoping to lead you astray. Tell me, is this what you desire? To be mired in deceit and sin? To live your lives in fear? No! Then you wish to take action? We do! Your devotion pleases me. This evil must be purged. Only then can we hope to be redeemed.
This is not justice!
You go right to the end! Who do you take yourself for? And all of you stand idle, complicit in this crime.
What curse you are! See how the evil of one man spreads to corrupt others? They sought to instill fear and doubt within you, but I will keep you safe. Here now are four filled with sin. The harlot, the thief, the gambler, the heretic. Let God's judgment be brought down upon them all! Slay the infidel, quickly! Slay the infidel, quickly!
Your work here is finished.
No, no! It had only just begun!
Tell me, what's your part in all of this? Do you intend to defend yourself as the others have and explain away your evil deeds?
The Brotherhood wanted the city. I wanted power. There was an opportunity.
An opportunity to murder innocents.
Not so innocent. Dissident voices cut deep as steel. They disrupt order. In this, I do agree with the Brotherhood.
You'd kill people simply for believing differently than you.
Of course not. I killed them because I could. Because it was fun. Do you know what it feels like to determine another man's fate? And did you see the way the people cheered? The way they feared me? I was like a god. You'd have done the same if you could. Such power.
Once perhaps. But then I learned what becomes of those who lift themselves above others.
And what is that?
Here, let me show you. Jerusalem needs a new ruler.
So I have heard.
What's this? No words of wisdom for me? Surely I have failed in some spectacular fashion.
You performed as an assassin should. No more, no less. That you expect praise for merely doing as told, however, troubles me.
It seems everything I do troubles you.
Reflect on that. But do so on your way back to Masyaf. Your work here is done.
Fast forwarding memory to a more recent one.
We done already?
Get up.
Whatever you say, Doc.
I'm ending the session. I'll be right there. You're sure about this? Yes. No. Everything's Denver. I don't see how he could... Of course. I understand. You're in a lot of trouble, Mr. Miles.
What's his problem?
They're coming for you.
Who's coming for me?
Assassins.
Hey, I had nothing to do with this.
Sounds like they're mounting some kind of rescue attempt. Guess you're more important than you realized.
Man, things just keep getting weirder and weirder around here.
It was bound to happen.
What do you mean?
That little fight your ancestors started during the Third Crusade, it never ended. You're being held by Templars.
Vidic's a Templar?
There's no way you could have known. They hide it so well. But to answer your question, Vidic works for them. We all do. Abstergo is their company.
I thought Templars were old dudes with funny hats who sat around drinking beer and plotting world domination with, like, the lizard people.
No, except the part about world domination, I guess. Look, Desmond, it's complicated. Half the stuff they say about the Templars comes from crazy tinfoil hat-wearing nutjobs. The other half is misinformation intentionally produced by the Templars themselves.
But they are the bad guys, right?
If there's one thing I've learned since I started working here, it's that there's no such thing. It's all so relative. I guess the best way to explain it is, what they want is good. But the way they're going about it, it's bad. Really bad.
What are they trying to do? Lucy?
Yes?
Miss Stillman, I need to speak with you. Get up here, now!
On my way, Doctor. I'm sorry, Desmond. I have to go. You should turn in for the night. The answers to all of your questions are right in front of you. You just have to know where to look.
Missed you this morning, Doc.
Get in the Animus. Quit wasting time and...
Use counterattacks when faced with multiple enemies.
Come in, Altair. I trust you're well rested? Ready for your remaining trials?
I am, but I'd speak with you first. I have questions.
Ask them. I'll do my best to answer.
The merchant king of Damas murdered the nobles who ruled his city. Majd ad-Din in Jerusalem used fear to force his people into submission. I suspect William meant to murder Richard and hold Akka with his troops. These men were meant to aid their leaders. Instead, they chose to betray them. What I do not understand is why.
Is the answer not obvious? The Templars desire control. Each man, as you've noted, wanted to claim their cities in the Templar name, that the Templars themselves might rule the Holy Land and eventually beyond. But they cannot succeed in their mission.
Why is that?
Their plans depend upon the Templar treasure, the Peace of Eden. But we hold it now, and they cannot hope to achieve their goals without it.
What is this treasure?
It is temptation.
It's just a piece of silver.
Look at it.
What am I supposed to see?
This piece of silver cast out Adam and Eve. It turned staves into snakes, parted and closed the Red Sea. Ares used it to start the Trojan War, and with it a poor carpenter turned water into wine.
It seems rather plain for all the power you claim it has. How does it work?
He who holds it commands the hearts and minds of whoever looks upon it, whoever tastes of it, as they say.
Then Gagne's men?
An experiment. Herbs used to simulate its effects, to be ready for when they held it.
Talel supplied them. Tamir equipped them. They were preparing for something. But what?
War.
And the others, the men who ruled the cities, they meant to gather up their people, make them like Gagne's men.
The perfect citizens, the perfect soldiers, a perfect world.
Robert de Sable must never have this back.
So long as he and his brothers live, they will try.
Then they must be destroyed.
Which is what I've had you doing. There are 2 more Templars who require your attention. One in Akka, known as Sibran. One in Damas, called Jubair. Visit with the Bureau leaders. They'll instruct you further.
As you wish.
Be quick about it. No doubt Robert de Sable is made nervous by our continued success. His remaining followers will do their best to expose you. They know you come, the man in the white hood. They'll be looking for you.
They won't find me. I'm but a blade in a crowd.
Here, my gift to you, in gratitude for the good work you've done.
Ensure your first attempt is also your last.
Remember to reach out for ledges should you fall.
You are filth! You are filth!
It's the hero of Damas. Come in, stay a while. Tell me all about your adventures.
I'm afraid I don't have the time.
I see. Too important for me now.
It's not that.
No, of course not. How may I serve you then?
Al-Muallim has asked I take the life of the one they call Jubair.
Ah, Salah ad-Din's chief scholar. Strange choice of target in my opinion. But who are we to question the master's will? I'm sure he has his reasons.
And you're familiar with the man?
He's been quite busy these past few days.
organizing the scholars and sending them into the streets to preach.
What do they speak of?
Light and fire, cleansing sins, apocalyptic nonsense, if you ask me. All this talk of paths and a new world.
What about this new world?
Couldn't say. I don't pay attention to the ramblings of madmen. Much too busy with real work.
Very well. I'll walk among the people, see what I can learn. Where would you suggest I search?
South of here, you'll find an academy and a guard tower. They're both good places to search. There's also a hospital to the east you might want to visit.
I'll begin at once.
So eager. You've certainly changed. And for the better, I might add.
Thousands of lives are lost in its defense. It seems a tragedy, but I say this is an honor to die in service to God, fighting for what we believe in. There is no greater glory than this. When he does, I won't help him. I stand before you to deliver a warning. Richard takes Jaffa. There will be no stopping him. He will march on Jerusalem next. We must end this. War is at a chance to begin. The city is ours. Has always been ours.
Just a few coins, please. A few coins. All I ask is for a few coins. No, you don't understand. I have nothing. Please, sir, have any money?
Be gone, face.
I'm so hungry. Just a little money, I beg you. My family's sitting down. Could you spare a few coins?
Pray that God, glorious and exalted is he, find favor with us.
Bad news, brother. I killed a Templar this morning. Well, I suppose that's actually good news. I even found a letter on him which I gave to Nemair, who said he'd find you and deliver it. But from the look in your face, I suspect this hasn't happened. Go on then. Don't waste any more time with me. Seek Nemair and get that letter.
I'm so hungry. Just a little money, please. No, you don't understand. I have nothing. Please, can't you spare something? What is that man doing?
You live a lie, surrounded by false
Where is he going?
knowledge, created by wicked men who seek dominion over your minds.
cezası ölümdür.
Come no further.
Leave now.
Once he was a teacher, a false prophet of their lies. But then the way was made clear to Kubayan. He saw what must be done, understood it fell to him to spread it. And as he was shown the way, so was I. And I will show you as well.
Hırsızlar barajına müstahak.
What is that man thinking?
You are not allowed to be here. Leave.
Do I look like a merchant? No. So go away.
All I ask is for a few coins. Haven't money, no food. I'm so hungry. Just a little money is better for.
Hırsızlıkların cezası ölümdür.
This is our chance to begin anew. Let Zubair lead you to revelation. Let him lead you to the
Go. You must
Away
not
with you.
trespass here.
أنت حسارة.
Please, someone do something.
Here. Take this. I've been looking everywhere for you. Now I can finally return to Masyaf. Last time I offered to do someone a favor.
You are not allowed to be here. Leave.
Make no mistake. It is our
You must
very
not trespass here.
existence we are fighting for. The infidel king would see us all wiped from the world. We must resist. We must push back. The fires of war consume the land, and thousands of lives are lost. Saladin rides to meet him, that these barbarous acts might be avenged. Pray that God, glorious and exalted is he, finds favor with us. He may grant us victory!
What would cause him to run with her?
That's what happens when you run with...
Shaitan is everywhere! Watching, waiting! He tells us always! Be strong! Strong like Saladin! And help our enemies in whatever way you can! Out comes the English king and his infidel army! They leave horrors in their wake! Saladin rides to meet him, that these barbarous acts might be avenged!
If there's anything I can help you with, anything at all, do not hesitate to ask.
I stand before you to deliver a warning. When Richard takes Jaffa, there will be no stopping him. March on Jerusalem next. We must end this before it has a chance to begin. That city is ours, has always been ours.
We found the place. It's just as you described it.
I suspect he'll want to deal with this himself, and quickly. Best we say nothing to the others.
A wise course of action. Truth be told, I'll be happy when this business is done.
Soon, my friend, soon. Today should see the last of them put to torch. Boy, come here. You still have the letter I gave you?
Yes.
Go and deliver it then. You'll find the one it's meant for, inside the madrasa.
The Shaitan is everywhere! Watching, waiting! He tempts us always! Be strong! Strong like Leave now, or I'll make you. Leave, peasant, before I make you. Leave now!
It's forbidden for you to be here.
Stop acting like a child.
Come, come!
Altair, my friend, you have become quite the wanted man, as am I. I must prepare my family for the trip back to the safety of Masayef this afternoon. Could you finish my last assignment in exchange for information? Some men must be eliminated in Jubair's quarter. Be fast, my friend.
Could you spare a few coins? Just a few coins, please.
Waiting! He tempts us always! Against our enemies, in whatever way you can! Fires of war
Why did you do
consume
that?
the land, and thousands of lives are lost in its defense. It seems a but I say, this is an honor to die. So we know.
May God have mercy.
You've nowhere to run! Out of the way! Won't get away from us! Protect me!
Please, sir, we have any money? You don't understand. I have nothing.
I knew he'd hit something. Running like that. Careful!
Finest wares in all the land. You are wise indeed, which is why you've come to me. Go away! Not find better items anywhere else, I swear it. Where is the one responsible? Who did this?
Some murder nearby. الموت للكافر أيها المرتد
Please, just a few coins, please.
What are you doing that for?
Do that again and I'll call you.
You'll find better.
What would you do?
See what I've to offer.
I'm so hungry.
Don't do that again, understand? Something from your eye? Want a bargain? I'm your man. Come. I am at your service. God curse the one who's done this. Where are you?
I'm so hungry. Just a little longer, I beg of you.
Leave now and I'll let you leave.
Hırsızlık yapmanın cezası ölümdür. Hırsızlık yapmanın cezası ölümdür. Hırsızlar zarar görmüşler.
Go away! What happened
He
here?
was a teacher, a false prophet of their lies. Then the way was made clear to Jubair. He saw what must be done, understood it fell to him, having learned the truth, to spread it. And as he was shown the way, so was I. I will show you as well. Though our fathers dwelled in darkness and their fathers before them, it does not mean we must as well. This is our chance to begin anew.
For today only.
I beg of you.
I'll have your head! You're right! Get away from me! Who saw what happened here? Kill him! Get away! God favors me! You will die here. This is a waste of time.
have exactly what you need. Has he lost his mind?
I beg of you. Unbelievable. Could you spare a few coins?
Finest wares in all the land. The right place. Then I.
So come on, king.
Show yourself.
Coins, please. My family depends on you.
What?
Could you spare
Who's
a
done
few
this?
coins?
Tell me.
What is that man thinking? Who did this?
Once he was a teacher, a false prophet of their lies. But then the way was made clear to Jubair. He saw what must be done, understood it fell to him, having learned the truth, to spread it. And as he was shown the way, so was I. And I will show you as well. You live a lie, surrounded by false knowledge, created by wicked men who seek dominion over your minds. Locked away, they might still be discovered, but once burned, these texts...
Fine. All I ask is for a few coins.
Thousands of lives are lost in its defense. It seems a tragedy.
Something got your eye? What is he running for? For today only. I've decided to... Let's get in here.
No, please don't leave. Just a few coins, please. My family depends on you.
It's great to see you back so quickly and in one piece. I must return to my family, but before I leave, this is for you. I found a map showing where scholars are planning to burn books and other sources of knowledge. Please be careful, and let the future reunite us. I'll give your blessings to my family.
Can't you spare something? Please don't leave.
What are you doing?
Just a few coins, please.
Darkness and their fathers before them, it does not mean we must as well. This is our chance to begin anew. Let Jubair lead you to revelation. Let him lead you to the light.
I need food. I'm so hungry. Just a little longer,
Hey, Marty of Jerusalem, yes! We must end this before it has a chance to begin! That city is ours, has always been ours! And it is our duty to defend it until death! The Crusaders must be destroyed! Now comes the English king and his infidel army! They leave horrors in their wake! Saladin rides to beat him, that these murderous acts might be avenged! Pray that God, glorious and exalted in thee, find favor with us! Deliver us from slavery! Fighting for the infidel king.
You won't find battle cries anywhere. You seem to know exactly what you want.
He has found the strength to stand in defense of our great civilization. Make no mistake, it is our very existence.
Come see what I've brought.
dare steal in my presence? That will cost you your life!
Please, somebody help me! What he's trying to accomplish? Let go of me! I've done nothing wrong!
Is there a reason for him to do that?
You ever see someone do that before? I have.
What news, Altair?
I've learned much about my enemy.
Share what you know then.
Jubayer has become obsessed with purging the city of its knowledge.
The most terrible crime. Now I see why Al-Mualim wants you to remove him.
He's using the city scholars to assist him. They go out into the streets, harassing the people and collecting all their written works. I fear he intends to destroy them all.
He must be stopped.
That's why I'm here. He's to hold a meeting soon, at the Madrasa al-Qallasa. It's where I'll go. It's where I'll take his life.
I'll leave you alone to prepare. Bring glory to the Brotherhood.
Fast forwarding memory to a more recent one.
Thief! You are filth! Fires of war!
Is there a reason for this
Thousands
nonsense?
of lives are lost in its defense.
That man seems to be
In great tragedy. What I say.
No, you don't understand. I have nothing.
Sorun çıkartacak.
You ever see someone do that before? I have.
Every single text in this city must be destroyed.
My friend, you must not do this. Much knowledge rests within these parchments, put there by our ancestors for good reason.
And what reason is this?
They are beacons, meant to guide us, to save us from the darkness that is ignorance.
No, these bits of paper are covered in lies. They poison your minds, and so long as they exist, you cannot hope to see the world the way it truly is.
How can you accuse these scrolls of being weapons? They are tools of learning.
You turn to them for answers and salvation. You rely more upon them than yourselves. This makes you weak and stupid. You trust in words, drops of ink. Do you ever stop to think of who put them there? Or why? No, you simply accept their words without question. And what if those words speak falsely? As they often do. This is dangerous.
You are wrong. These texts give the gift of knowledge. We need them.
You salve your precious writings. You do anything for them?
Yes. Yes, of course.
Then join them! Any man who speaks as he is just as much a threat. Do any else among you wish to challenge me? Good! Your orders are simple enough. Go out into the city, collect any remaining writings and add them to the piles in the streets. When you're done, we'll send a cart to collect them, that they may be destroyed.
Away with you!
Citizens, bring forth your writing. Raise them in the pile before me. King Annie is ascend. Know and embrace the truth of my words. Free yourselves from the lies and traditions of the past. Citizens, bring forth your writing. Raise them in the pile before me. Keep Annie is ascend. Know and embrace the truth of my words. Free yourself from the lies and traditions of the past.
Leave, peasant, before I make you. Leave now.
Leave now, or I'll make you.
Anyone can put ink to parchment. Anyone. Such power.
Seni yenemeyecek. Kime böyle yemek istiyorsun? Seni yenemeyecek. Maybe you have it your way, but you already lost. Curse the one who's done this! Where are you? Over here! Kill him! You're mine!
This is a waste of my time.
Won't anyone help me?
أنت حثالة. أنت حثالة.
Today is a glorious day. We will at last be free. Purge yourselves of these evil spirits before they control you. Do not think yourself above their corrupting influence. Their words can only do harm. Today is a glorious day. We will at last be free. Purge yourselves of these evil spirits before they control you. Do not think yourself above their corrupting influence.
What is it? When will he...
Infinite. There's no chance. God is on my side.
Protect me!
For centuries, we've quietly acquiesced, agreed to believe based on nothing more than the word.
Help me! Somebody help me!
Good people of God, you are doing the right thing. Let us cleanse this city of its poisoned past. This is a righteous act, and from the flames shall be born a new era, one of truth and unity, governed by a singular wisdom. Why? Why have you done this?
Men must be free to do what they believe. It is not our right to punish one for thinking what they do, no matter how much we disagree.
Then what?
You of all people should know the answer. Educate them. Teach them right from wrong. It must be knowledge that frees them, not force.
They do not learn, fixed in their ways as they are. You are naive to think otherwise. It's an illness for which there is but one cure.
You're wrong, and that's why you must be put to rest.
Am I not unlike those precious books you seek to save? A source of knowledge with which you disagree? Yet you're rather quick to steal my life.
A small sacrifice to save many. It is necessary.
Is it not ancient scrolls that inspire the Crusaders? That fill Salah ad-Din and his men with a sense of righteous fury? Their texts endanger others, bring death in their wake. I too was making a small sacrifice. It matters little now. Your deed is done, and so am I.
Altair, tell me you've met with success.
Yes. Jubair's fires are extinguished. His life as well.
Excellent news. I had no doubt you'd succeed.
You should have seen it. The scholars followed him so readily. Wasn't just books they fed to fire either, but any man who opposed them.
Such ignorance breeds only evil. You've done a good thing this day.
As with my other targets, he believed he was doing the right thing, clearing a path to a better future.
Of course he would. Such is the landscape of a madman's mind.
The things I've seen these past few weeks, it's as if all the land has gone mad.
And this is why we fight to end the war, that sanity might return. The people are desperate for direction. It's easy for men like Jubair to prey on this and turn them towards evil. You should go, Altair. Return to Al-Mualim. Tell him what you saw. Let him know the good you've done this day.
Safety and peace, Rafiq.
Upon you as well.
Fast forwarding memory to a more recent one. Countering a strong attack will leave your enemy vulnerable.
Welcome home, child. What news?
Another of the named is put to rest.
Then it would appear your work is nearly complete and your status restored.
A question, Master, if I may.
Ask, and I will answer.
Why these men, Jubair and Sabrand?
Ah, don't you see? They paved the way for change. Ensure threats both old and new are not given cause to intervene.
To weaken them is to weaken our enemy. I suppose that makes sense.
Were these men to continue their work, our work would quickly be undone.
How is that? We've caused them much grief.
We strike at the arms, yes. But this is a hydra that you face, and it is quick to replace that which is severed.
Then we should lop off its head and be done with this.
Soon. We are close. Only one more man stands between us and our ultimate goal.
I will return to my work. The sooner this last man dies, the sooner I might face our true enemy.
Before you go, I have a question for you.
Of course.
What is the truth?
We place faith in ourselves. We see the world the way it really is, and hope that one day all mankind might see the same.
What is the world, then?
An illusion. One which we can either submit to, as most do, or transcend.
What is it to transcend?
To recognize nothing is true and everything is permitted. That laws arise not from divinity but reason. I understand now that our creed does not command us to be free. It commands us to be wise.
Do you see now why the Templars are a threat?
Whereas we would dispel the illusion, they would use it to rule.
Yes. To reshape the world in an image more pleasing to them. That is why I sent you to steal their treasure. That is why I keep it locked away. And that is why you kill them. So long as even one survives, so too does their desire to create a new world order. Take your equipment. Seek out this last man. With his death, Robert de Sable will at last be vulnerable.
It will be done.
Safety and peace upon you, Altair.
going to run into someone. What is that thing running?
You can use stealth kills to create a distraction.